You stand with the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Butler.
Here.
Commissioner Clausen.
Here.
Commissioner Cox.
Here.
Commissioner Phipps.
Here.
Mayor Hall.
Here. Consent agenda. Items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion of these items will occur unless a council member requests the item to be removed from the consent agenda. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it will be considered elsewhere on the agenda for this meeting. Prior to asking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, the mayor will ask if anyone desires to remove an item from the consent agenda for public discussion. Would anybody like to remove an item? Hearing none, I move the minutes of the regular meeting of May the 6th, 2025, and the bills and payroll for the first half of May 2025 be approved. Can I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Commissioner Cox and roll call.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps.
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. Presentations, petitions, and communications. This portion of the city council meeting is reserved for persons who desire to address the council. The Illinois Open Meetings Act mandates that the city council may not take action on comments received on matters that have not been identified on this agenda. But the council may direct staff to address the topic or refer the matter for action on the agenda for another meeting. Persons addressed in council are requested to limit their presentation to 3 minutes and to avoid repetitious comments. We would also ask you state your name and address for the record as well as stand when speaking. Would anybody like to address the council on any subjects? Oh, come right up here.
Hi, I'm Brenda Woodward. I live on 1112 Unique Court, and I'd like to be heard on June 3rd for an approval of my house. I got pictures up there.
Okay.
I know I have a few neighbors concerned about my Airbnb in the neighborhood. I think once I get started, they won't even know I'm renting it out. I'm going to have strict rules in place. No parties, no smoking, no pets, and they must be 25 to rent. I'm going to have video surveillance hooked up and outside of my house and a noise monitor installed. The guests will have to sign a contract if they break any of my rules. There will be a fine to pay if they don't follow my rules. This will make a great second income for me. My boys are in college and I have an empty house. Other Airbnbs have been approved, so I think I should be too.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I'd just say, like, from a staff perspective, we're always going to kind of take a neutral stance on these. It was, there was a petition, to your point there was a petition from some local neighbors saying, hey, we don't want that in the cul-de-sac. And because of that, the planning commission did unanimously vote no. Now, that said, of any type of tier short-term rental, we're going to want to see the tier ones, right? Where they're, owner occupants, right? And so I believe one of the things you had mentioned is that you would be an owner occupant and you'd just be renting this out on weekends.
Right.
So as far as the short-term rentals go, it's not the most, negatively impactful one that's taking away a unit of housing from the community. So really, it's kind of up to council to make that decision. And it's totally her right to try to bring that to meeting, even though the planning commission voted the way they did. So.
Okay, correct. All right.
Not all the neighbors signed a petition for houses did.
Okay.
Brenda, any idea what the objections was? It just because it's a cul-de-sac with limited parking did you hear anything?
They think it'll be something different. And I don't know who's coming into the area, but.
And it also had, clearly it's a beautiful home. Yeah.
Mhm.
Two houses that have pools and they have parties all the time. So it's not like you have a quiet little cul-de-sac. So a lot of times their car on front.
Okay.
So with the petition that was presented, did it have, it was, 4 of the neighbors did not sign it?
Mhm.
And then were there multiple family members in the same household on that petition? In other words, how many addresses truly objected?
I think five addresses and there were a couple, there are 2
Yeah, and to be very honest, they did not list their addresses on that petition. We were presented with this petition and we did have a couple of members of the community present who were in that general area. I talked to a couple of them and I know exactly where they live. But yeah, so there was a petition presented and, as a staff member, it's just kind of, I have to hand that out to the planning commission and vote the way they vote.
Was that their main concern, or did the planning commission have any other concerns other than the petition of those against? Did they have any other stated objections as to why they
Not
denied it?
necessarily. It was more so just there was community input against it and they took that at, essentially at face value.
But that fits all the criteria for the Airbnb.
Yeah, essentially, we don't have a designated ordinance that's set, just like with cannabis we do, right? When we approve that, because you have to meet this criteria and then it shall be granted. We don't have that for the short-term rentals. We just have a way to classify them and regulate them after approval. So basically, it's a special use. It's essentially subjective to the point where as long as you're being consistent in your reasoning for everybody, then that's okay. So if you're saying like this is too close to a school and somebody else applies and they're close to a school and you approve that, but you rejected the first one, that creates an issue. So you need to be consistent whenever you make those, but we don't have a specific rule in our ordinance that designates if you have this, this, and this, you get it. So essentially it appears to me just on a basic analysis that the planning commission seems to be saying we don't recommend these if there's neighborhood input against it.
So if that was denied at the planning commission level,
Mhm.
and then a month from now, a neighbor decides to do that within their property, and then there's no petition filled out, is the planning commission going to say, looks good to me, and now we've got a problem?
So again, I can't speak for the planning commission. They vote as individual, appointed folks in the community. However, I would change my staff recommendation based upon that past stuff. We always say we're going to be neutral, but let's say this stays denied and that is denied. If someone else brought that up, I'd say that's not fair. And I would change my staff recommendation to be negative and against that special use.
Refresh my memory here, if you would, Alex. So the special use permit is annual. Is that correct?
No.
So it's ongoing.
You have 2 years to implement. And then after that, it stays with the owner of the property.
So what happens if there is, so where I'm going with this then is, so what happens if there's a special use permit and they don't live up to the guidelines, or if there ends up being an issue?
If that's reported and we can verify that, and they violate the ordinance that's around that, saying like you have to have certain decibel levels, you can't play music after certain times. If that's violated and there's proof that's provided to the city, it's definitely within the city council's purview to be fine.
So there are some stopgaps to address the neighbor's concerns, but yet not violate her rights to operate a lawful business out of the home.
Completely agree.
I lived there 19 years and I just think I know all my neighbors, we're all friends. I have been linking to our neighborhoods and.
Right.
So I do
I
have,
don't know what's up on my neighbors.
I do have a
They
question.
what it's gonna find.
Are the noise, levels, aren't they the same for anybody who lives in the city, regardless of whether it is a short-term rental, a long-term rental, or a owner?
Yeah, so there's already an existing ordinance for noise, and then we actually took a slightly more restrictive approach with the short-term rentals. So like they have this cutoff hour that's a little bit sooner than the regular one, but still it's essentially the same.
Just one more question. I think we're ready to approve another one tonight, or it's on the agenda to discuss. That's in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
This is in a residential neighborhood. And as I recall at the planning commission meeting, that was one of the comments was made, well, that's a purely residential. We don't need an Airbnb. So,
I'd say the difference here is the one that's on the agenda tonight is more like a thoroughfare, like, it's not a cul-de-sac.
yeah,
So I would say that would be the reasoning.
but still not a multi-purpose area like the one that was on Broadway at the last one,
Oh,
so.
absolutely. And I'm just speaking to
Yeah.
what I heard the planning
Right,
commission
right.
say in their deliberation.
People who rent Airbnbs, they want a nice quiet neighborhood, they don't want a
Right,
loud. We need Airbnb.
yeah, fully agree.
And again, like personally, like I really don't see the issue. But from a staff perspective, it's just, that's the way the planning commission voted.
So I have one more question. How did your neighbors know that you were wanting one? Did you ask them?
I mean, they all knew, they knew.
We put, yeah,
Signing here, okay.
to get the special
Zoning
use, yeah.
change or something.
Have you been preparing the house for,
So, yeah, I repainted, I redecorated, I didn't know I had to get approved by the city, so I had all my sheets on. House, ready to go. And,
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion you'd like to have right now? Okay. Anybody else want to address the council? Any issues? Anybody online that would like, do we have anybody online?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Does anybody online like to address the council? Okay, hearing none. We're going to go into new business. We didn't assign things tonight, motions. So what I'm going to do is take charge here for just a minute. And I'm going to do the first one, number one, because it's liquor. And then each one of us is going to get a motion. We're just going to go around clockwise. And so everybody's going to get a motion. Commissioner Clausen's going to get the best motion to make, and that'll be to adjourn. So that was the only way I could, there's only 5 of us and I had to come up with something, right? So I'm going to do the first one and we'll just, that'd be all right, Jim?
So why are you starting on the left? Why can't you start on the right? There we go.
Well, because I've got the first motion.
You didn't
No,
want to, Jim.
Well, I don't
I've got
care.
to do something
I
here.
don't care.
Okay, so, okay, let's go new business. I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-5495, approving the amendments to the municipal code under chapter 114 liquor control, defining video game parlors, non-video gaming establishments, establishing microbrewery, winery, and distillery licensing, extension of Sunday hours, and approving the amendments to the municipal code under 35.01 fees and charges for fees associated with the licenses. Can I get a second to that motion?
second, Mayor?
Commissioner Phipps, and I don't know who wants to make comments. You've been,
Alex got a little presentation
So I
here.
Okay.
go through the presentation. It's been given to the council. I think for the record, we probably should go through it. I'm going to be very fast with it though.
okay,
But, I sent this out to council, I want to say about 2 weeks ago. We've also sent out, a few other times throughout the past year. But effectively, the main goal of this ordinance is really to open up new enterprise in the community and also restrict, kind of the expansion of gaming within the community. And so, the majority of this presentation talks about the current licensure, problems with it, proposed liquor ordinances, and then the comparison and benefits. Next slide, please. So these are our current licenses. Anything that has the little slot symbol allows for gaming. So you have tavern, club, restaurant, package, restaurant, with specified seating, beer and wine only, banquet halls, hotel bowling alleys, grocery stores, and then a caterer firm. Next slide. And so, effectively, these are their annual costs. And on the right-hand side, you can see which licenses are issued. And so, as many of us are well aware, there are 0 tavern licenses available. It's been like that for a very long time. It makes it very hard to start a new business that's maybe, oriented towards young professionals. Like if you were trying to start a bar or something in town, but you're not a chef and you don't want to run a restaurant, you literally can't open a bar right now. So next slide. And so there's some problems with our current licensure. It's essentially a city service with a street value. According to a couple of local business owners I've talked, the street value of a Class A tavern license is anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 privately, but it's maybe $5,000 to procure from the city, at City Hall. So that's an issue. And it also, again, to my prior point, there's no room for growth. If somebody wants to start a alcohol-based business, but they don't want to have any food associated with it, they literally cannot do that right now because of how it's set up. And, also poverty and crime on average. We have about $1 million a month that's extracted from our community. I have the video gaming report here for last month, if you don't believe me, that basically outlines that we spent 4.4 million, our residents spent $4.4 million on the video gaming machines here last month. And $1.1 million was extracted in profit from that. So that's $1.1 million of that 4.4 that people are actually losing in these machines. And that creates some issues because places that have more instances of poverty, according to a couple of studies, tend to have more video gaming terminals. And, our poverty ratio is 22.5% in the city of Mattoon. And so the more of these we have, there's a correlation, maybe not causation, but a correlation that it increases our poverty level, the more of these video gaming terminals that we have. And the key thing is people should be taking pride in their businesses, like you start a restaurant, you want to cook the best burgers in town, right? You want to pour the best drinks, you want to have the best atmosphere, not plug something into an app. So next slide, please. And so that's kind of the intent behind it. Next slide. This is just kind of the situation in Illinois from a regulatory standpoint. So Illinois, believe it or not, has more places to gamble than the entire state of Nevada. But we also have the lowest tax rates on video gaming nationwide. Next slide. And this is all of this data is from a ProPublica report. So you can see us at 30% on the highlighted section there. But then if you go up to Oregon, they tax it at over 70%. So, some of the ways how this has been crafted doesn't necessarily benefit municipalities as it does in other states. Next slide. And there's a company in Illinois, J&J Ventures, that contributed an additional $600,000 to state and local races and lobbied to help make these things happen. Next slide. And you can see it's a very profitable business. This is per quarter revenue. It's kind of hard to see, but like with J&J, they're making $19 million a quarter. That's a lot of money. Next slide. And then there's a lot of locations in a town as well to do that. And this is just all of those points on the map are really just from one terminal operator. There's multiple other operators that exist. Next slide. And, and again, as the average income level of a community decreases, it's been found that the average number of machines actually increase. And so ProPublica found a significant negative correlation between the number of video gaming machines and the average household income in a city and a county. Next slide. And so again, you can see the profits here. This is actually from last year in May. It was $1.1 million in profit. Last month, 1.1 million. So it's pretty consistent on a monthly basis. Next slide. And from that number, we get about $50,000 as the municipality. And so, that data is the main reason why we're not opening up more gaming as a part of these ordinances, because when our residents game more, we all lose. Next slide. And so, next slide. And so these are the new tavern licenses on the left, new liquor licenses on the left. So you have tavern non-video gaming, which is literally the same as a regular tavern license. You just can't game there. You're not allowed to have a video gaming terminal. Then you have hotel, bowling, same thing. Microbrewery, winery, distillery, class MWD. I'm realizing right now I just missed an opportunity to say WMD, which would have been cooler. But same thing, microbreweries, wineries, distilleries, non-video gaming. And then the last one is video gaming parlor supplementary, which would be a mandatory license that's initiated if your gross revenues meet a certain point from gaming, then there would be an additional license that you are mandatorily asked to acquire. Next slide. And that explains that, just saying the tavern, Class A, NVG, same thing, no video game terminals. Next slide. Same thing for hotel bowling. Next slide. And one of the neat things about the Class MWD for microbreweries, wineries, and distilleries is that license also grants them permanent product sampling status like they have at Neiman's. So you can do distillery tours, things like that. If we were able to have one of those here and have that come to our community, and they wouldn't have to come to the city every time to get a permit whenever they hope for it. Next slide. And so and again, this is just a draft. If there's any sections that we want to change or table, I still recommend we pass all the rest of the ordinance. But here, basically, if a business has their gross revenues from gaming come at 33.3%, I just rounded it up to 34 here, then they would be required to get what's called a Class VGPS or Video Gaming Parlor Supplementary License, because at that point, it could be argued that, if a third of your business's revenue comes from gaming, you're running a game, essentially. And there's many other communities that have done this. And I'll dive into that in a second, but we also increased current licensure for package stores. So right now we have about 6 that are allowed. Those are filled right now. So if you wanted to open up a package store, you cannot do that in the city of Mattoon today. We have multiple businesses on the waiting list. There's 5 right now. 3 of them are local established businesses that are already in our community. 2 of them, Beverage Genie, they want to take up a 5,000 square foot retail space on Lakeland Boulevard that has been vacant for quite some time. And then there's Walmart also wants to expand that. One of the other things we do is expand the grocery store licensure, just make that open. And then the last bit is changing the Sunday moratorium on when alcohol can be purchased. And that was mostly done and considered because of the sports complex. I kind of think back to, I'm not from Illinois, coming here from Sarasota, Florida. I went out back in 2022 to purchase some beers for my boss at the food bank when I was working at a food bank. And it happened to be a Sunday at 11. And they had the same rules that we had here. And so I showed up, I had my beer, I was going to purchase that. And the cashier waved me down and said, "You can't buy that." And as someone who's not from Illinois, I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm 29, like I can do this." And it just created a situation where it's like, I was an outsider, I didn't understand that rule, and it created a negative situation. And we don't want that to happen with people who are coming here, the 600,000 estimated people who are going to come here on an annual basis for the sports complex. So, and also it legalizes Sunday brunch with mimosas. So next slide. And so that's just kind of a visual example of the new licensure. Everything else that isn't in green is existing. Next slide.
Alex, can I interrupt you real quick?
Absolutely.
My apologies, but so the Sunday moratorium, what time would that change to?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
From 11 to 9.
Yeah, from
Now from
Monday
noon.
to 9.
Oh, no.
No.
And how did we come up with 9?
Honestly, I think it was a bit of a half measure from my perspective, in the sense of like, okay, we have this law because in the past we wanted some type of temperance, right? And so this still preserves that to a certain degree, and it just puts the alcohol into regular business operating hours.
Thank you.
And so at the end of the day, this shifts the value of gaming and inhibits gaming expansion. So while we can't completely remove the street value of a license unless we're deciding to completely open the floodgates and say, hey, we have unlimited tavern licenses and then gaming parlors can just pop up everywhere in the community, this does shift the value to, instead of being about license, it shifts it specifically to gaming. Because now we have completely open non-video gaming tavern licenses. And from there, it also increases some of our city revenues, but not by too much. It's still the same fees for any type of thing. We're just allowing more of them to be obtained by business owners. And it encourages new business by removing these limitations for alcohol-only licensure and creating new and unique licensure for microbreweries and other things. We're going to open that door for quality cultural businesses to come to our community, and this can help, attract and retain young professionals in our community potentially. Next slide. And there's other communities that are doing this. So City of Decatur, they're doing it for 40% of your revenues coming from gaming. That's going to trigger. And then you also have Springfield that's actively considering it now. And then the city of Macomb also does almost the same thing that we're doing. And they charge a $10,000 fee if you are operating a video gaming parlor. So we're not unique in doing this. And then this is just kind of my last point about in defense of brunch. And, Saturday brunch is now restaurants' biggest, revenue generator, replacing Friday lunch as the industry's most lucrative period. And that's according to a Square report. They're like a payment processing company for entrepreneurs. Next slide. And it's just good business. I mean, it's also cheaper to prepare breakfast food than it is to prepare dinner and lunch. So that's a neat thing for, our local restaurants. Next slide. And brunch has a lot of popularity amongst people who use social media. On TikTok, 4.5 billion mentions of brunch happened in 2022. Next slide.
Alex,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Can you segregate between restaurants being allowed to serve it on a Sunday brunch and going into a liquor store and buying a fifth of whiskey on Sunday morning?
We absolutely could add that to the ordinance or make that differentiation. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
And then my last point here is this is one of my favorite restaurants in my hometown of Sarasota, Florida, Open Stone. There's a bunch of them in Florida. It's a neat concept. They have pizza, brunch, breakfast, lunch, dinner. You got like a waffle burger there with the Bloody Mary in the back on the middle photo there. And they also have a beer wall that has wristbands. So you go serve yourself alcohol and then it cuts you off after a certain ounce. Next slide. That's literally illegal in Maxine right now. We can't do that. You cannot have Sunday brunch, but you can't have that mimosa. So, it's just another way how we can remove a barrier to allow us to have businesses in our community. And I believe that's pretty much it for the presentation. So thank you. Happy to take any comments.
I've got a couple comments. We haven't really reviewed our liquor ordinance for a very long time. The document that we have that is this ordinance is roughly 30 pages long. It's somewhat complicated and it's highly regulated. There's a lot of issues that can come up. The state of Illinois, of course, has a lot of regulation, and so does the municipalities. The good news about this, I guess I wouldn't say this is perfect yet. If we want to make adjustments to this, we can do that. If we want to add additional licenses, we can do that. And it's about, Alex has spent a lot of time looking to see what others have done and how we might keep up with some other communities that are doing more creative things that we are not. We don't really think that we're making anything worse. And if anything, we're making things better, particularly when it talks about controlling the gaming machines, because that is really a sin tax. It really takes money out of the people's pocket that the least can afford to do that. And so we believe that in the long term, it's better for the city to do this than stay the way we are now. But keep in mind, we can make adjustments if we need to. If we find out something that doesn't work, then we can do that. Go ahead.
So is it suggested then to go ahead and approve it and then make adjustments later or make adjustments?
No, I think what we want to do now is walk out of here with an approval. But as we implement, as we get some experience in some of these things that we've changed, then we can go in and easily make adjustments to those, just like we can with several other ordinances. So we would like to walk out of here with an approval tonight.
Mayor, I have two questions. Chief, do you have any concerns with what's proposed here? Do you see any additional more calls for law enforcement or anything like that?
I don't see the quantity being an issue, rather quality, and we do liquor backgrounds. And I know the mayor does a good job working with us to kind of funnel out the bad apples that would give us problems, but that's more of a quality than a quantity issue.
Okay, thank you. And Alex, as I read the motion, it's originally written 500,000 people annually. I think you said 600,000 over, just using 50 weeks a year. It's about 12,000 people. So this will be an economic impact to our city, right? Because it's going to bring people from Emerald into what we call the ancillary area, which is here, and help our local businesses.
Absolutely.
Plus help our revenue.
Absolutely. According to Walmart, we've been talking with them. They said they're expecting anywhere from $1 to $2 million in sales if they're able to, on an annual basis.
And that 1.5 is good for us. Thanks. For sure. Thank you.
The annual licensing fee, right, with if a third of your income comes from, or more, comes from gaming, then you pay a higher annual fee, right? It goes from 5,000 to 10,000.
So it's in addition to that.
Correct,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
So you'd basically be paying 15 total, because you have to have your original license and then you.
And then
have to have your-
$10,000, okay. So how does that differentiate between, or from, say, one of the Class A taverns that doesn't have food, right? They don't serve food. How does that, they only have, basically, they have two sources of revenue. Their alcohol sales and their gaming, and their gaming. So does that put them at a disadvantage with, as opposed to other Class A taverns that serve food as well? Are they going to be more easily subjected to that additional $10,000 fee?
Yeah, I think they could be if if at least a third of their revenues, come from gaming. And so, my thought is that if council feels strongly about that and we're concerned for, specific groups that have a Class A license, but they don't serve food, there is an opportunity for us to amend the ordinance and say, hey, the 33.3% will be for, food-based businesses like a Class R or D1 licensure. And then we could do 50% for non-food businesses. But either way, I mean, I kind of am going to speak from some experience here in code enforcement. We shut down Lucky Dog Slots because they were saying that they were, putting out 17,000 hot dogs a month, $1 hot dogs. And that means that's one hot dog per resident of the city of Mattoon, which was a blatant lie, honestly. And so, I think that if you have, the main intent of this is to target disingenuous businesses that are just trying to get gaming and operate a gaming parlor. We don't want to negatively affect House Brothers, Joe's, other groups. But I also don't believe that, those specific businesses like House Brothers or Joe's, I don't think they get a third of the revenues from gaming. From what I've been able to see on this report. But that said, if that becomes a pain point, or if we think it's a pain point tonight, we can easily make a one sentence change to this ordinance.
And we were just kind of taking that up as, what is the primary business and are they really a business or are they just a gaming parlor?
Well, and I guess my question would be, if more than a third of their business is coming from gaming and not the alcohol sales, that's only going to benefit us as a city as far as where money's coming from, because we're allowing you to have this license that says, yes, you can have gaming and you have a bar, but most of your money is supposed to come from alcohol sales, not from gaming. And if it's the other way around, you no longer are fitting your license that you applied for, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we weren't putting one business at disadvantage as compared to another. But by the way that the ordinance is read by math essentially. So, but you answered that and I think it could be adjusted at some point.
It can be adjusted if we find out it's not
Okay.
working right. And like I said, we used to have 17 actual taverns, what I would consider 17 actual taverns in town. And now I'd say there's about 5.
Right.
Everything else is gaming parlors.
Right. Because they've taken those licenses and they've transferred them into essentially a gaming parlor.
Right.
And that was not the intent of
Correct.
when the city approved the gaming licenses to begin with. That was not the intent
Right.
of that. So, Alex, one other question I had, taking on Commissioner Phipps's point earlier, which was a good one. So the Sunday morning hours, you've got brunch at Honeybee or wherever. That's one thing. But would the taverns be able to be open at 9 o'clock on a Sunday?
They could with that ordinance. And again, that can be modified tonight if we want to change.
I will tell you, we've had some variances to that in the past where they've had some pool tournaments on Sundays at Brian's Place. When Brian's Place was open, I don't think they actually served alcohol, but the bar couldn't be open because of that chance, but we had made some amendments in the past to allow for some special events on Sundays, bars to be open.
If we're asking about just a couple of hours difference, are we asking to task our police officers to police that time, or who then has to police whether or not somebody is open?
Right.
24/7, right, chief?
I'm just like,
It's right there.
who's going to Pat's at 9 a.m. on Sunday?
There will be people there.
There will be people.
Police it.
I'm not
If they're
comfortable, I
not
guess.
open.
I'm fine with the restaurants and the brunch concept. I'm not comfortable right now in my mind with the taverns being open at 9 a.m. I mean, I'm just not comfortable with it. I think it needs more thought on my part, but I'm not comfortable with that right now.
So given that, I would say that if that is how council feels as a whole, then an appropriate amendment would essentially just add a sentence to that portion of the ordinance that says, the 9 a.m. classification shall only apply for establishments serving prepared foods.
And then everything else just reverts back to how it is now, which is what? Noon.
It'd be the taverns that would go back to noon.
Yeah.
We don't include Walmart. Another.
Well, unless,
Too.
Yeah, package as well.
oh, you do, so you want to do it for all of them? You don't want it for all. I thought you were focusing on just,
I was
Tavern.
in my mind. I mean, yeah, because this, just having this discussion here. So
And package or something like that, if we wanted to open up the package aspect to be at 9 a.m. and onwards. Which again, I mean, you're not going to have anybody hanging out at the store drinking. Take that home or take it to the ballgame or wherever they're going.
Right.
Which they shouldn't be doing that at the ballgame, but definitely.
right, I'd be fine with that.
Do the taverns sell package?
They do.
So then you're allowing a tavern in to open up.
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah.
Honestly, we're talking 3 hours.
Yeah.
I guess that's my thing.
But
We're only talking-
I look at it differently. I guess the 3-hour time frame. I'm more along just the health wise, the temperance part of it, I guess, from a certain aspect of the community. And there's, I think there's always been some value of, there's a downtime for that. But this is one of the challenges with over the years of why it's been so difficult to update and revise these liquor ordinances. There's so many interactive parts that what we're seeing in this discussion. So
And again, like our feelings as staff are not going to be heard if we don't do that.
Right.
Again, this is just, a draft proposal. Hopefully, to the mayor's point, we walk out of here with something tonight. I think either way, as long as we're opening up the road for new businesses to be established here, it's a good thing.
Would it be easier just to scratch the time frame for right now and then come back with an amendment later?
Yeah, you can table that section.
we do have people that have been waiting. We've had people on waiting lists for years. And they're paying a fee every year to stay on that list. We have one business, by the way, that have somewhat threatened to say, and it's a new package liquor that's going to occupy space not occupied today that exists, that they're saying, hey, we've dealt with this long enough. If you guys can't make up your mind, then we will go someplace else.
Yeah.
Now, they're not worried about the time. That's not a big issue for them necessarily, but they want to get open. They've invested money and time in this, legal fees, and they were hoping tonight we would pass something that allow them to.
Well, we've lost revenue from the winery currently because of where they've built. So the city has lost revenue and they are open Sunday morning and serving alcohol.
Yeah, right. Because they're in a different, district.
Yeah.
They're not in the city limits.
And Mayor, in the past, a major ordinance change like this does not necessitate a public meeting.
It does not. We talked about that. Now, of course, if tonight someone had come in, the tavern owners all know about this. We've talked. About
Okay.
it. They knew we were making changes and what we were doing. If they had filled this room, then we probably would have said, hey, we don't have 3 or 4 hours to have a town meeting on this. Let's postpone it and let's have a town meeting on it, or an open meeting. But we're not seeing that. And so I don't see the need to do that right now. We've got some of the tavern owners who are anxious to get additional licenses, honestly. Some of them are going to benefit from this. So they think it's good enough that they're okay with it.
How about this, Mayor? I would propose this. I'd be fine with going back to the Sunday morning issue. We've talked about we can always revise things, right? If we approve or if we decide we get there, the restaurant and package sales beginning at 9 a.m., which is going to open up an avenue for expanded business. But the taverns remain closed until noon, and let's see if that's even an issue for the taverns. It may not be an issue for them. And if it is, and if they bring it to our attention and it is an issue for them, we could always revisit it.
Yes, we could do that. We might, yes.
Sorry, but internet, the package license is different than the tavern license.
They are.
So the tavern couldn't open early saying, oh, well, we're selling package. No, you're not. You have a tavern license, not packages.
Right.
But they are allowed to sell package at a tavern.
Facilities.
But they don't have that specific.
with him on that.
So it's just for the classification of license.
On that license.
And they're not going to open just for package
No,
because they
I'm not gonna have enough.
they don't have that much volume that they sell anyway. So
Part C already says that the taverns aren't going to be open between 6.
Is that the one that changed?
Part C, the hours already says that, Part C, the, Class A, which is the tavern.
Yeah.
It's already says that it's, closed between 6 a.m. and noon. So that didn't change. Something else up here did with the hours, but it specifically states that the Class A,
Section 1453,
letter C. Yeah, already says that the taverns will be not, won't be open between 6 and.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't see it. 53. Here it is.
1453. Water's hours down there.
Yeah. I think you're right, Susan. I think
Maybe you already covered.
it might be already covered.
Well, it talks about the sale at retail during dispense.
Right.
Part A talks about the changing it to 9, but Part C, the tavern says 6 to noon, no sales.
Okay.
It didn't
that did. So that did.
There's no change there.
need to change necessarily. Someone else is saying,
Good catch.
well,
I think the point is, the intent is that, and what Dave said is that brunches are okay at 9. Package is okay at 9, but taverns are not. So as long as that wording gets it.
Yeah, and that didn't change that way. So we don't really have to change the ordinance.
Yeah.
It's already covered, is that
Yeah,
right?
covered.
Well,
It says taverns can't be open during that time.
153.
restaurants, grocery stores and clubs and that can, it's separate, but taverns aren't.
Do you agree?
I would. Class A liquor licenses may only be open between 6 and noon on Sundays for serving food only. So they can't have brunch, but they can't have mimosas. They can serve food. And then at noon, they can serve whatever. So there is a bit of penalty.
Mhm.
So tavern can open in the morning. They just can't
If they're
serve
serving food.
If they're serving food,
if they're serving.
Yeah, restaurants, yeah, what we're saying is
but they can't serve liquor, so.
But it doesn't specify what kind of food. They could just sell potato chips.
They can
$1 hot dogs.
Whatever they want.
They could sell 7.
Yeah.
17,000.
It's just still noon. So that's-
Is that okay with everybody, the way it's written then?
I think so.
Okay. So, any other discussion, any other questions? Again, keep in mind, we can make other changes if we find, we want to just. So, again, any other, anybody? So let's go ahead and take a roll call then on the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Okay, I believe that's mine.
Yeah.
Yes, from your earlier comments. Thank you. Motion to adopt special ordinance number 2025-1960, approving an underground gas line right-of-way easement on city property located on Lot 10 in Block 2 in Urban Heights subdivision for the purpose of supplying gas to a communications equipment station and authorizing the mayor to sign the easement, part of PIN 06-0-03920-000.
Can I have a second to that motion?
Second, Mayor.
Commissioner Phipps? And, okay.
So we approved a easement of a 50 by 50 lease for this communication tower, and this is really just the gas line going to it. It's going to be underneath the drive, but Ameren did not want to just put the gas line like they would a normal house or any other commercial building. They wanted an easement. So this is just an easement for their gas line, which would be underneath the drive to this communication hub.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call then.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes.
A motion to adopt special ordinance number 2025-1961, granting a special use for a Tier 2 short-term rental located at 3009 Prairie Avenue, petitioner Eric Anderson. Parcel 07-2-10804-000.
And a second to that motion.
Second, Mayor.
So essentially, this came to the Planning and Zoning Commission at the last meeting. It was unanimously approved. Again, staff's going to be neutral on all presented. And they're here tonight to answer any questions that you might have. And they also, I might add, literally live next door to this proposed short-term rental.
Okay. Any questions on this one? No.
I question what are you, Seattle's fan? See, question judgment.
Judgment?
But I'll delay that
You must know this gentleman. Is that right?
a little bit.
A little bit? Okay, so, all right, so we've got a second and we had discussion and now we're ready for a roll call.
Commissioner Phipps.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Of course.
Motion to approve council decision request 2025-2601, authorizing the purchase of a 2015 Ford F-550 regular cab bucket truck with boom in the amount of $20,000 plus trade-ins, surplus equipment, a 2007 F-450 utility truck, and a 2006 Vermeer chipper from Old Route Trucking LLC for use at the Public Works Department, and authorizing the city manager to sign the invoice.
And can we have a second to that?
Second.
Commissioner Cox? And what are we doing here?
Basically, we've talked about buying a used bucket truck for the Public Works Department for low limbing down Western DeWitt. We have to use the big bucket truck, which is not very nimble to move around and cut those. We've actually had guys doing things wrong in a bucket of a backhoe trimming. So we've been looking for one. We found one. We actually found this before we even approved the budget, so we knew what the budget price was going to be. They did surplus the old utility truck and the chipper that we just don't use. They're sitting in something, but we don't use them. So we, talked with them and got a good price of 50, I think it's 55,000 or 50,000. And what we get trading in, it's down to 20,000. So we planned on it in the budget, but it's my authority is 25,000 and the vehicle is actually worth 55,000. We wanted to bring it to the council.
Okay. Any other questions?
Kyle, when you have one of these trucks, they have to be inspected annually. Does that already meet this? So that's out of the way?
Yes.
Worry about that.
Correct.
It's ready to go.
Has been used. Yep.
Started right to work. Okay.
Ready for roll call? Let's do that.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. Comments from the council? Any subject matter you want to bring up?
Could I go back to Brenda's comments? Was Brucker? Is her last name? Woodford?
Wofford.
Wofford. Okay, excuse me. I was hoping maybe before she left, we could kind of give her an update on what's next. So on here, so.
We can reach out to her.
So I guess obviously we couldn't vote on that tonight or do anything further with it, just in public comments. But is that something we could get on the agenda at the special meeting next week if the council so, if we have two of us that would put it
Yeah,
on the
no reason why we
agenda?
couldn't.
And the reason I say that is, right, if she's incurred some expense, she was talking about, I personally don't, I'm open to discussion on it, but it doesn't seem to me that
Yeah. The public
the
may,
request is any different than anybody else's, than the others that we
Yeah.
voted on. So,
the public may show up to, voice their opinion.
Sure, they can.
Sign the petition. So
yeah, but we could do this next Friday or
Wednesday.
next
Wednesday.
Wednesday at
Yeah,
the
28th.
special meeting. So, okay.
That
And we
that
would
what we
need,
want to do?
the deadline to get that on the agenda would be what?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
I can write that.
You got ready to go?
She was very quick with that tomorrow, so I think that's probably what it is, so.
yeah. She knows.
Knows.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
Is that okay with everybody? All right, so yeah, we'll go ahead and do that then. Any other comments anybody has? Council, questions?
Just have one, Mayor, and for Kyle. They had a citizen called, I get my bearings right. It's on Champaign Avenue, the bridge right behind what call Ace Lumber. If you look down, I mean, I don't know. I got a hunch there may be some people staying down there. It is a lot of trash. Is that the responsibility of the railroad to clean that up?
It is the railroad's property. Yeah.
Right.
So it
So
is their-
can you pass that on to them? I don't know that it will
Yeah.
be a
we
priority,
can
but
try. Yeah.
yeah.
But they have other times down on Charleston Avenue, down by 26. They've cleaned up some areas where they've had some homeless trying to live there.
Okay.
So
We are building a better relationship with them. I think we got a chance of getting something done this time. So we're trying to build some things together on a couple of projects with Canadian National. And we've got a new contact too. So yeah, I think we could probably do something there.
We're on the right track.
but
I expect that from him.
Okay.
I just want to say welcome back, Dave. World traveler, wonderful. And Alex, great work on the ordinance, liquor ordinance. I know you spent a lot of time and effort, and it doesn't go unnoticed. There's a lot of detail in it, so appreciate it.
And I'm letting Brett know that might be on the agenda next week. Okay, that's fine.
Good. All right. So if we're done by comments of the council, then we're going to, I'm going to make a motion to recess to closed session pursuant to Illinois Open Meeting Act for the purpose of collective negotiation matters between the city of Mattoon and its employees or the representatives, or deliberations considering salary schedules for one or more classes of employees under 5 ILCS 120, 2C2. And so can we get a second to that motion?
Second.
Good. Commissioner Phipps?
Sure.
And we'll do roll call on that real quick.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler. Yes. Mayor Hall.
Yes. And then after our executive session, we will not be taking any action when we come in except to Commissioner Clausen is going to get his chance to make a motion. And
Please stick around.
yeah, most people don't stick around to see him make a motion, just so you know.
They treat me.
And so, but you're welcome to stay.
Are you going to volunteer to test the bucket truck?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
Got to be able to climb in.
We will pause until we get back out of the executive session.
Get you out.
Bill Sanford was that, hey, got your one for the year. Don't ever lower that.
We are back on.
we're missing,
I know. Over that.
have anything to sign?
No. You need that?
No.
Yeah.
I got something to sign. I'm sure I got something.
Residents.
Straight from China. Shanghai.
That's on it.
We're all back.
All right. Like to have anything to say?
Mr. Mayor, as I get into my second term and never doing this before, I make the motion to our elected council to adjourn this meeting.
That's the most official closing we've had.
I know what time I get.
Okay, second to that. Well, now what are you gonna do?
Nobody wants to be on the record with me. That's send Christmas cards. Neighbor.
Now he calls on you. Dude, that second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Phipps.
No.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. Meeting adjourned. Let's see.